What were some of the challenges in preparing for this big 21-day event?
Well, so I don't know exactly where I'm going. I have sort of a general sense of where I'm going, but the the area that I'm supposedly going to be in has a wide variety of little microclimates within a relatively short drive. So it was difficult to know when they told me, oh, it's going to be approximately this area. So that was probably that's probably been the biggest challenge is not knowing what to expect.
Well, diversity may prove to be a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Shelter, water, fire, and food. Any concerns about the flora or fauna? Any hazards to be mindful of?
Yeah, there's going to be a number of hazards. There are three species of poisonous snakes that I have to be aware of. Two of which are pretty rare. The third is moderately more frequent, but of the three, its bite is actually the least toxic. But there may be jaguars, but there will more likely be mountain lions. Neither of which do I particularly want to actually mess with. And the hard thing about them is, I'm used to bears. I'm used to North America, and bears are sort of like silly and they bumble around. And it's not like you want to walk into one, but they don't stalk the way cats do. I'm not a big fan of being stalked. And then in terms of flora, I haven't found evidence that there's toxic, like something that I wouldn't want to touch. There are definitely plants that I wouldn't want to eat, but that's a little bit easier. I just don't put anything in my mouth unless I know that it's safe. So my understanding is that it's supposed to rain an hour or two, thunderstorms every night. So that could be or every afternoon. So that could be a fairly violent sort of a rain, not just like a gentle rain. So cover is going to be really important to prevent us from getting wet, our dry shelter, which is supposed, needs to be dry to really keep us warm from getting wet. And if we're going to have firewood, that, I collect dry firewood, I'd like to keep that dry as much as possible. So a decent sized cover is actually going to be something that's high on my list. And I'll just sort of see what I have to do in terms of what materials I have available to make that cover. And it's going to all be about shingling. Because obviously people have been making thatched roofs for thousands of years. So if there's grass, I can make a thatched roof. If I have access to big leaves, I can shingle those. In terms of other aspects of the shelter, I'd probably like to have it up off the ground because I hear that it may be a little bit chilly at night, and so ground will sap away a lot of heat. You're lying on cold ground. You're not going to warm up the earth. So that's one. And also the snakes, two of the species of snakes that are down there are pit vipers. And so they will like warm places, and I would like to stay up off the ground so that the snakes don't necessarily get into my warm places. Yeah.
Water concern?
Always. If it really does rain for 2 hours every day, then as long as we can catch it, we've got clean water. So when I get there, I'll definitely be spending time thinking about any natural containers that I might be able to make use of. If there's big leaves, I can fold them up into containers. If there's wood, I can maybe make coal burn bowls, things like that. So that's good. Natural water that's there. Apparently, there's going to be a clear rushing stream, so that's a steady source of water. We'd have to purify it, and for that, you'd need a container of some sort. And since I don't know for sure what item I'm going to have, I don't know if I'll have a container. So.
Which brings us to fire. What have you done to prepare for fire making?
Well, I've done friction fire. Yay. I've made a bow drill, I've made natural cordage, and gotten a coal with the bow drill. I have some understanding of which woods to pick, so hopefully I can find a wood that's not tremendously dense, that's dry, and I can make a fireboard and a spindle out of it and barring that, I can do strap drill, which I've worked on some, which is hard on my neck. I have a hard time. It's not the most comfortable thing. Hand drill, I think if I don't have a partner, I'm not going to be able to pull off a hand drill on my own. I'm just not that skilled at it yet. So I will have to hope that I can at least show my partner, here, I know how to make this thing. Now I just need you to do this with me for 10 minutes until we make a coal or whatever it will be.
Food.
last consideration, but it'll certainly be one. 21 days is a long time to go without eating. I've looked up some edible plants in the area. I've looked into the indigenous people that used to live in the area, and there was a paper written actually about the indigenous people in this particular area and the roots and plants that they used. So I've been able to find a few of those in modern literature to look up and draw, sketches of what those plants look like so that I remember. So that's one. But again, I don't know for sure which microclimate I'm going to be in, so I may not find this tree or that plant. And animal life will be there. Snakes, while being dangerous, are also tasty. So if I can catch one at night when it's cold, or in the morning when they're going out on the rocks to sun themselves, would be a good idea. There should also be bird, and apparently there will be fish in the river. So if I can work on somehow corralling the fish, then maybe I can get some fish.
Maybe a fish weir or
maybe
spear
a fish
fishing.
weir. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Last piece. It's really hard here in northern New England in the winter to prepare for a 21-day excursion in what sounds like a more tropical or warmer climate that you've never been to before. But what are some umbrella awareness tools that you're going to apply when you're down there?
A couple of the things that will be really important for me for safety will be recognizing new things in my area, because the plants don't move. So if something is moving into the area, I probably want to know what it is, because either they're not afraid of me enough, and for that reason I should probably be afraid of them, or because it might represent a food source that I could use. Nice. So trying to pay attention, learn what's here, what's present in this area, and then being able, that way I can notice changes.
Little things like, are you south or north of the equator, are going to determine where you put your shelter opening, right? Because of the arc of the sun, and higher is drier. Those things will also apply, I'm sure. Well, wish you luck, and I'm hoping that you find a lot of cordage plants.
Yes.
And plants perfect for getting fires and containers.
We'll see how it goes.
Have fun with it.
Thanks very much.
So you just came back
I just came back
from your amazing adventure.
I guess I've been back 3 weeks, but yeah, it still feels like I'm just back. I still have moments where I'm not back, and then lots of moments where I am back. But every now and then I'm like, oh wow.
21 days.
Oh yeah. 21 days.
And lots of rain. And
lots of rain.
I was going to ask you. We share skills like the order of survival, and it's really the priorities in your mind of how to approach things. It's not really a grocery list. With attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food, in that order. Do you think that's an appropriate order to put attitude, something you can't make with your hands, first?
I do, and I think that I would consider attitude the first, and then the overarching thing that you have to always have awareness of, because attitude's not going to keep you warm, and it's not going to give you water if you're thirsty. But if you don't have those things, attitude goes a long way towards being able to endure while you're getting them, or until you are able to find them. You can have a tent, a sleeping bag, food in your pack, and none of that may matter, because if you don't have the attitude, you may not be able to last until whatever your end point is, whether that's hiking out or having somebody come find you. Without attitude, you can have everything. People in the world have everything without the attitude, and they don't thrive.
Right.
So.
What about the idea of, you're out there, gosh, almost, 3 solid weeks with nothing, literally nothing. You get what? You got a flint?
We got a fire steel and a machete.
Okay. We try to train people here to set the bar at comfort for their shelter building. And from a standpoint of a trainer, if you fall a little short, you're still going to survive, right? But overall, the idea of comfort as your goal, do you think that's important?
I actually think it really is important, and it's been these 3 weeks that made me think that. Before, I always felt that I can build a shelter and I can survive, and I'm going to build a good shelter and I'm going to be comfortable, but really the important thing is that I survive. But after these 3 weeks, I really came to a place where I realized that surviving is absolutely important. I mean, it's first, you got to do it. But without comfort, I didn't have the energy or the desire to do almost anything else. I would do exactly what I needed to do to make it through the night, but there was no impetus to invest energy into creating more and building more than I absolutely needed to do because I was just exhausted, and it was mentally and emotionally exhausted. And so yes, I think that telling people, you want to make your shelter comfortable, you need to make your shelter as comfortable as you can, is a good goal for them, although they may not, like me, they may not understand why until they spend an extended time without comfort and realize then what an amazing benefit, amazing gift being comfortable actually is.
Nice. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you, we have a big emphasis here, and we often say, yeah, we depend on technology in our modern construct, but it's a far distant second to seasonal awareness and community. When you were out there, you had one partner. Did anything hit you as far as your experiences with that one person regarding the importance of seasonal awareness or community or both?
Working with one other person, it was nice because I didn't have to collect all the firewood, and I didn't have to collect all the food. I was able to rely on my to help me with those things. But the amount of work that had to be done in a given day, between touching up things that maybe that had fallen on the shelter, or adding to the shelter as we needed to, collecting firewood to keep the fire going all the time, just with two people, there was just such a huge amount of work. And the thing that really struck me was if we'd had 5 more people, our shelter would have had to be a little bit bigger, we would have had to collect more food, but the number of people the number of hands we would have had to do those jobs would have made it so that it was lighter work for everybody. And the other thing was, although managing interpersonal relations with one other person is probably less complicated than managing them with 7 or 10, if I was frustrated with something that my partner was doing, or if he was frustrated with me, having other people to help manage those frustrations and help feel, help you feel as though you weren't alone would have been really, really good. And the seasonal awareness, where we were, it rained, and every third night we had a huge thunderstorm, and then some days it would rain off and on all day for a few days in a row. And it made it really hard to keep a fire going. We had to burn X quantity of wood, probably 20% more wood than we would have, just to dry the wood so that we could actually have fire. And knowing that it was going to thunderstorm every night, and it didn't actually every night, but having that in your head, it's like, oh, it's 3 o'clock, time for the clouds to roll in, let's see if we're going to have another one tonight, made it not a really optimal place to be. But not that we had any choice about it. It was the challenge that we were given, and we did it. But had we been able to go out there in the dry season and build something that would have been dry inside and out from the very beginning, and then used that in the wet season, that would have made a lot of sense, and that would have been more what an indigenous group would have done. They're probably not going to try to build something in the wet season because everything's going to be wet.
Great.
So.
Nice. Well, I think you came back.
Yeah, I'm here.
You didn't eat your partner.
Some of me is gone, but the rest of me is here.
Right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. It's going to be a good show, I'm sure.
I hope so.